Welcome everyone to another episode of Mental Unblock. This is your host Omar, and this week we bring you a real exciting guest. He started his own company and launched his own brand about 3 years ago. Today, you can find his brand and product in most major retail shops, not only in the UAE, but in the GCC and across 10 countries internationally. He also managed to land his company on Forbes magazine's top 50 startups to watch out for. He is the proud founder and owner of Koita Foods. Mustafa, thanks for making it on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Omar.
Man, I mean, first of all, congratulations to you and your team on a job very well done. Second of all, how does it feel to be in Forbes magazine?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. I mean, we've had so many twists and turns. We've had a lot of challenges. And when you get an accolade like that from Forbes magazine, it just, it feels good. It feels good.
Sure. Now, I'm sure it came easy, didn't it?
No.
All right.
We were a little surprised when we got the first call from Forbes. We're like, do you have the right place here? Did you call the right number? But they've been following us, and they've been great supporters.
Sure. Well, congratulations on that. We're going to come back in a few minutes and talk about the success that you guys have achieved, the amount of liters of milk, organic milk that you guys are turning over. And but first of all, I want to get everybody up to speed on who Mustafa is, the journey that you've gone through in your life. Sure. You were born in New Jersey to a middle-class family, and you've had a few traumas in your life growing up. Yeah. Share some of that stuff with us and how that made you the person that you are today.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the success that we've been able to achieve, I feel like it's a direct result of a lot of the challenges, a lot of the insecurities, and circumstance that happened in my life. So, and at those points in time, I was freaking out and scared. And when I look back, I'm so glad I went through those. So, early on, middle-class family, dad immigrated from India in the 60s, very tough Indian father, and my parents at the time, they had this vision of me being that typical Indian kid who was getting straight A's, going to become a doctor and, live the Indian parents' dream kind of thing. First gen kid. And I didn't have that life. I had a very different life. So early on in my life at the age of 13, unfortunately, my mother passed away. And it was very, very, traumatic for me because I'd been on this path. And when that happened, you get sad, you rebel, and your grades slip. I mean, that was probably the biggest negative symptom that I had. And it took me off that path, right? And my father, who didn't have another partner at the time, was trying to figure out how to do this. He's got 2 kids and whatnot. And essentially, when I got through high school, because, 2 years before I graduated high school, my GPA was so low that my parents weren't sure I was actually going to go to college, and for an Indian parent, that's like Hurricane Katrina. That's a big deal.
Of course.
So that was a really big challenge when I was growing up.
So at this point, you've made up your mind. You're starting Koita Foods.
Yeah.
Your specialty is organic milk mainly.
Yeah.
Now, how did you gain momentum? How did you first make things happen? How did you break ground?
Yeah. So we made things happen by not starting with Koita branded organic milk.
Was it just you when you started? Did you have a team with you?
Yeah, it was me, my life savings at the time, and a bit of pension money coming out of Boeing, working out of my home office, and I had 0 employees.
So you didn't raise funding. This is something you did just from your pure life savings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And to date, I haven't raised any equity.
Okay.
And that was tough. That was a tough path to take. But again, I didn't want to go out and raise money because at the time, raising money is very difficult in the Middle East.
Sure.
You're going to get killed on the valuation. Mm-hmm. People don't value things like they do in the West here.
Sure.
They value it on initial cash flow. And so I kind of reverse engineered my business plan around the fact that I was like, this is how much money I have, and I got to try and create a business with this limited amount of cash flow.
Sure.
And once you've got a certain amount of cash to start a business, the clock starts ticking, and you're like, okay, what do I do with this amount of cash?
Okay. So you started with your own cash. How did you come up with the product?
Yeah. So again, 2 things were happening in parallel. On day 1, I was like, look, I got to get some money in the company. So we had a phased approach, and I actually started a food trading business just to get some revenue going.
Okay.
So I kind of hustled, got my network, cold call, and I started meeting a lot of food retailers and finding out what deals were out there. And I found that one of the largest retailers in Saudi wanted tea. And private label tea.
Okay.
And then I went backwards through my, my family network and whatnot, found a source of tea, and I closed $1 million private label tea contract at a very low margin just to get some business going.
Sure.
Kind of learn how to trade tea.
You'd never worked in F&B in the past. No. This is the first time. You've come into an industry that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get $1 million deal then?
Yeah,
I mean,
so look, I think in business, if you're not in the industry, there's just some certain fundamentals in salesmanship that help you make money in any industry. Listen to what the customer wants.
Sure.
Try and find where you can get that. And be honest. And being honest in this region is a USP.
Sure.
And I think I built up a rapport with this customer. They knew I wasn't a guy who had a track record of 10 years in the food business, but they knew I was an honest guy and that I was hustling and I was working hard. And I listened to the requirement and I sourced the tea.
Sure.
And we sold $1 million worth of tea.
Okay.
And I learned how to trade tea.
Sure.
Throughout that process.
Was that your first break then?
That was my first.
Okay.
I would say that was my first break. And I cold called into 10 retailers and one took my call. I went and got the meeting and, figured out the requirement and closed the deal. And what was happening is in parallel, I also started listening to the market. Because in my mind, I had this vision that I wanted to start my own organic food brand. So I started, while I was getting some money with the company, I started listening and asking a lot of mothers in the region what they want in organic, and started doing that primary proprietary research.
Sure.
Because listening is the most important thing when you're developing a product.
Absolutely.
And so that was phase one. Phase two then was the private label tea contract went kaput after about a year. That's a very tough business because they can just swap you out if you don't have your own brand. And I kind of saw that writing on the wall. And what I did is I moved into distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is I went to a lot of the healthy food conferences. I knew that was kind of a trend from listening to mothers. And I got the agency for a $2 billion pretzel company called Snyder's Lands and a coconut water company called Go Coco. And at that time, coconut water was just coming in and snacks were a big thing. And I went to the retailers and I kind of moved up the food chain, no pun intended. And I got a contract with, some of the big retailers here and started selling them coconut water, started learning how to distribute locally, started learning how to put stuff on the shelves and work in that game.
Sure. So this pretzel brand that you're talking about, I'm aware of, it's quite a large brand.
Yeah.
Why did they do business with a guy who's just a one-man show? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't have the track record, you don't have the background. I don't want to say you don't have the credibility, you do, but they don't know that. So this is the part that I actually admire about you is you're quite resourceful. It seems that throughout your life you've been able to find ways to just kind of make things happen. In other words, right?
What I realized is that in front of this $2 billion company, I think people underestimate their value in certain categories. I think people in this region value themselves only if they're standing behind a $100 million company or standing behind 10 years of experience.
Correct.
And I think what people really value is honesty, skill sets, passion, and persistence. And I think I was passionate and persistent with this American pretzel company in convincing them and saying, "Hey guys, give me a shot." And I would, before even having the agency, I would go to the retailers and bring their samples and say, "Hey, are you interested in buying this?" Kind of pre-selling to get some bites, and then saying, "Hey guys, look, you haven't even given me the agency, but look, I got some bites here." And I think those guys really appreciate it. I think the fact that I was American, dealing with an American company, helped.
Also helped, absolutely.
But I think that passion and persistence is key.
Sure.
And I think, and another interesting thing is when I was going for these agencies, I got rejected all the time. Mm-hmm. I went to some major organic food companies in the U.S. that were like, no. And I got 20 no's until 2 companies said yes, and I think that was a really important reason why we've been successful is that, I get rejected all the time, it's like, and now I just start smiling at it, I'm like, okay, what's next? Kind of thing. And I think that to me, no is really just part of the process of getting to yes. And that's how I was able to convince that company to give me the agency and, make something.
Absolutely. Okay, so at this point, you've secured a couple of good deals. You create this product, which at some point you told me is not a product, it's more of a solution. Why did this product or solution, why did it do so well? What's so special about it?
Yeah, so I don't consider us a product company.
Okay.
I think we're a customer-driven company that gives customers what they want. I think that's a different mentality here. So the reason this thing is done so successful is that we've spent a lot of time listening. And again, we started doing proprietary primary research, interviewing thousands of mothers around the region in regards to what they want in a good organic milk or organic food solution. And and through listening, listening is a tough thing because you don't hear what you want to hear sometimes. In your mind, you have these preconceived notions, and then people tell you things that are very tough to deal with, but you got to embrace it, And so we heard the market saying, hey, there isn't a whole fat solution on the market. There isn't a milk solution that has vitamin D. The small packs, we don't like the straws because they're poking kids in the eyes and falling out. And we want something that's resealable so there's no wastage. So we started listening, and vitamin D was a big thing. So again, getting back to why this thing worked is we listened a lot and took a lot of notes. And then the second part is then we went out and went to try and find, the happiest cows in the world, the cleanest tasting milk and all of that. And we went to the suppliers. When we productized it, we based it on what we'd heard from the market.
Okay.
So then when we launched it, it was kind of like the Snyder's example.
Sure.
We kind of talked to the consumers first. And so we were understanding what they want. And then when the product was on the shelf, I'd already had 1,000 people that were like, this is what I want to buy. So we de-risked the whole thing. And I think that's one reason why it's been so successful.
That was mainly your R&D. You didn't go out and hire, a third-party company and spend a lot of money on it.
We didn't have the money.
True.
So when you don't have the money, you don't have a choice.
Well, which is, in your case, doesn't seem to be a problem throughout life because you're quite resourceful. Wherever there's a will, there's a way. And this is something I'm coming to see, which I really admire.
No, I appreciate that. I think in this region, people think you need a lot of money to do a lot of things. And I think that if you're creative and resourceful and passionate, we've created a sizable company with a very small investment. And
tell us, you're talking about the size of the company. Give us an idea as to the level of success that you've reached. So we know that you've made it onto Forbes magazine, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about volume, just for people to understand.
Yeah. So we started out 3 years ago doing around 20,000 liters every 2 months of milk in just one country. We're now doing around 250 to 500,000 liters a month across 10 countries. Wow. And I think that...
You're in 10 countries now.
Yeah, we're in pretty much all the GCC. We're in Singapore, Philippines, Angola, Jordan, Pakistan. We'll be in a few more coming.
Right.
So we're in 10 countries now, and the goal is to be in 20 countries by 2020.
Okay.
So 20 countries in 2020.
20 in 2020, I like that.
Yeah, it's got a nice little rhythm to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, while you're building this company, it's now a multi-million-dollar company, you even have your product on Emirates Airlines, right?
Yeah, that was a big accolade for us. So, we spent about 2 years chasing Emirates Airlines, and our kids' sizes are now on 167 flights a day, and all the first and business class kids meals. We've got the soy milk on there as well, and that to us was great because now we're global.
Well, sure. Plus, to get someone like Emirates Airlines to recognize your brand, I think that would definitely help take you to the next level. Speaking of the next level, you're no longer a one-man show. You now have a full-fledged team. You've got offices and you manufacture this stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that. What I really want to know as well, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners want to know, is when you got to this point, I'm sure things didn't go according to plan. What are some of the toughest moments that you faced? Was there ever a time that you doubted yourself? Did you question yourself? Was this the right move or not?
Yeah, I think you question yourself and you doubt yourself all the time. It doesn't stop. And I think that doubting actually adds more logs to your fire.
Sure.
If you approach it the right way.
Did you ever want to give up or quit?
There were a couple times where I was like, listen, I think we're getting close to a bad situation. And, but I think for an entrepreneur, the toughest moments almost always have to deal with cash flow.
Okay.
Cash is king. And in this business, when you're a small company, you can't get loans from the bank.
Sure.
And it's hard to raise equity. And you're financing this whole thing on yourself. Cash flow is your key item. And so we had a couple tough moments where, I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we had a distributor where we extended them some credit, and basically, every couple containers they order is around $80,000 to $100,000.
Okay.
Right? And we give them net 30-day payment terms. And what happened is I thought, okay, I'm giving them $80,000 to $100,000 credit. I can stomach that if something's late. So they order. And then a month later, they're a little late, but they have to order for the next month. So I didn't think about it. And they placed another order and we fulfilled it. And so within 60 days, I'm $200,000 out and I haven't thought about it. And the guy hasn't paid his first payment. And, things are happening so fast. They're putting out paper, putting out fires all the time. And then he's ordered a third time.
Okay.
And in 90 days, you're $250,000 out. And you're like, I haven't defaulted on anything. I haven't done anything wrong. And now all of a sudden, I'm stuck in this really bad situation.
So for a small business, that's got to be very tough to stomach, especially when you started this with your own money savings and that was in the early stages. Yeah. So what happened?
So what happened is, anytime you have risks or problem, you got to stay calm, which was hard.
Did you actually stay calm? Well, I know it's easier said than done.
It was tough. Yeah. It was tough. And it was during the summer when I was on holiday, and I was like, man, this is the worst holiday ever because I'm stressing out about this thing. But, we managed it. And what I did is I got on a plane, I flew over to that country and met with them. I helped them understand that, guys, listen, this is, we're not Nestle here. This is a big deal. And this is over if you don't sort this out. And, some other things will happen if you don't pay up. And basically they cleared out the balance. But the most important thing out of that is that we learned, and what we did is we very quickly decided that we're going to have to put credit limits in place. We're going to have to secure our payment. And in fact, I would never wish that experience on my worst enemy. But, again, I learned how to now manage cash flow a lot better. And people tell you all the time, but unless you get punched in the face, you don't really learn that lesson. You need and I've been getting punched all the time. And those punches and bruises have helped us become a very strong and a very lean company in where we are today.
Now, you've also mentioned that you're still fully self-funded. You don't have any backers or partners. What's the reason behind that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be quite interested in, buying a certain stake in your company or investing money into it. Why haven't you done that?
It's really flattering, but we get probably a call every week for someone that's interested in buying us or taking a stake or investing in us. And I think that as an entrepreneur, I've had to decide, do I want this to be a lifestyle business or is this a revenue? Am I in it for the money? And there's two options.
Sure.
And
are you not?
Look, I'm American. I love money, as much as any American does. But I like the lifestyle too. I like the fact that I control 100% of it. I like the fact that I can make a decision like this. I like the fact that, I can give this eventually to my kids. And say, this is Dad's company. It's yours now.
Especially when it carries the family's name on it.
Yeah, that's a big thing because when your name's on a pack, you treat every little pack like it's your baby.
How does it feel to walk into major retail shops and see your brand, your family's name? How does it feel for your family? You were talking earlier about trying to make your father proud. Is he proud now? I mean,
Indian parents are very tough to impress. As Arab parents are too. And
you can't tell me he's not proud. Is he expecting more?
No, I think he is. I don't. My dad is in the U.S. He's not on social media. I don't send him the newsletters and all that. He came over recently, and I took him to one of the retailers and had him look at the milk and on the shelf. And I think in his mind, what he sees is what he understands, and he's like, "Okay, you're in the store. Good job." What else is going on? He doesn't. I don't think he understands how far we've come, and he hasn't been part of that journey. So, But I'm constantly hoping that he will be proud of what I've been able to achieve.
Absolutely. I was going to say I hope he understands how great of an achievement it is to actually make it into Forbes magazine. But then taking it even a step further, you mentioned to me earlier that you're looking to take the product into the U.S. Maybe have the product on the shelves there one day without telling them.
Yeah, we're working on that now. So we're actually talking to a couple of U.S. distributors as we speak. We're productizing it. There's some certifications. And again, back to your initial point about investors, a lot of people are excited about what we've been able to achieve with so little and where we're going. The vision of the company is, there's unlimited scope for the company. And I think back to that issue of whether we want to be a lifestyle, if this is a lifestyle or a growth company, I'd like to keep it a lifestyle. I'd like to keep it 100% owned. But at some point we may need to take on equity. We're struggling with that question all the time. Luckily, we don't need to. Right?
Now, did you receive actual official offers?
We've received a lot of unsolicited offers. Two of the largest dairies in the world approach us. which was amazing, and we decided not to pursue those. But it's a big compliment to what we're doing right now.
Any chance you can share with us the amounts that they've offered you?
They're sizable amounts, definitely size. I can't get into the details.
In the millions?
Easily, yeah.
Easily in the millions. Yeah. Okay. So you had the opportunity to sell a part or maybe all of your company to major dairy companies, global size companies, and become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. Yeah. And you decided to...
Yeah, we want to keep, listen, I think that, money is certainly important to me, but, there's still a lot of growth ahead, and we can self-fund a lot of this growth on our own. And we don't want to grow too fast either. Growth is good, but it's not great. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to be careful that, I think people get caught up in go big or go home.
Sure.
And I don't really believe in that.
Okay.
I think you need to grow in phases.
Sure.
And again, I come back to this point, there's no such thing as fast money.
Okay.
And I think traditionally investment bankers will come to you and they'll have the argument where they'll be like, listen, there's this window of opportunity. You've just started. You got to capture this window of opportunity. You need to raise equity. And you got to realize that whole industry is designed on taking a fee, convincing you to take equity and taking a fee from here and here. And they're thinking of windows of opportunity. They've got a 3-year window. With Koita, this is a family business.
Sure.
We're not here to cut corners. I'm thinking the next 20 years. And so everything we do has got like a 20 to 30 year vision behind it,
What's your advice then to entrepreneurs who are looking to leave their dead end job or wanting to take that leap? What's your advice to them when it comes to raising money then? Should they try to be resourceful enough and start things the way you did?
I think there's 2 parts to it. I think that one, you got to know if you've got what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Entrepreneur is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, it's not. And I think that sometimes you gotta know your strengths and weaknesses to decide if you're ready for that. And the only way you'll know is if you take a jump and try it. That's the only way you'll really, really know. And sometimes people believe you gotta quit your job and take a full jump into entrepreneurship, and sometimes you don't have to do that. I always feel like there's always creative middle grounds to everything. It's not A or B. There's something in the middle, and a lot of times you can join a startup and be employee number 3 or 4, like I did early on in my career, and be with an entrepreneur and kind of learn the ropes before you make 100% jump. I think that's part 1. Part 2 is when it comes to the money. I mean, there's a lot of businesses you can start. I mean, people have this concept they need a 5-year business plan. I don't believe in that. I think you have a 6-month business plan and it evolves. So whatever you come out and start, like, we didn't know this is what it was going to be. We didn't know we were going to be in 10 countries. We change our business plan every 6 months, and that's okay. That's actually a better solution than fixing and locking your business plan in for 5 years.
Because you're adapting with the circumstances.
Yeah, you adapt. You got to learn how to adapt all the time and be a bit of a chameleon sometimes with your business plan. So I think those are some concepts. And I think the other thing is, my other advice is sometimes you have to put on the blinders. Back to the business plan. Don't over business plan. Don't over research. Sometimes you got to jump. There's an analogy where an entrepreneur is the kind of person who will jump off a cliff and build his plane on the way down.
I love that, actually.
And honestly, I feel like that's been my life. Whether it's my childhood struggles or professional struggles or my entrepreneurial struggles, I come across all these challenges, and you have to just learn how to adapt and be creative. And it's okay to say, hey, let's stop for a second. Let's assess the situation. And let's rework the whole plan and then go forward.
Sure. Any major decisions or risks that you regret? Actually, any regrets at all? Things that you might have done differently when you look back today?
On a philosophical standpoint, I have 0 regrets. Because every single mistake I've made, both professionally and personally, and I've made a lot of them. I could write a book about all the mistakes, that I've made. But I'm so glad I made those mistakes because I learned from them. And I think any entrepreneur, they think failure and mistakes are a problem, and they really, really aren't. They're your best learnings. They're your best nuggets in life.
Absolutely.
So I don't have any regrets. However, look, I have made mistakes. I think the cash flow related mistakes that I brought up earlier was definitely one of them that was tough. I think that hiring people is very important. I've realized that I've had to fire a few people in life, and when we're 15 people, but when you're 3 or 4 people and you have to fire one person, it's 33% of your staff.
Absolutely,
it's a huge impact. So I've also realized that business is not about products. Business is about the people that are in your business, and I have an amazing team. I have an amazing team, and I feel like I work for them. And I think that's one learning, is that I've realized that you work for your employees, because they're not going to get incentivized if they're not getting something out of it. So you got to make sure they're happy. Also, the way that I hire now is I don't hire people based on experience. I hire people based on skills and their ability to learn and their passion, and most importantly, their corporate culture.
Sure.
Because you got to be able to get along with this person outside of work if you want to be in the office with them the whole day. And so those are some of the learnings that I've had in realizing this is a people business. It's not a product business.
Sure. You mentioned something earlier that I was able to relate to. You said it gets lonely at the top.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
When you're running a company, and you're going through all these struggles from when you're 3 to 5 to 10 to 15, or 1 to 2 to 10 countries, there's not a lot of people that can relate to you. There's not a lot of people that can. Entrepreneurship is a tough job.
Did you maybe say that because you kind of went through these struggles alone?
Yeah.
Were you not supported enough by certain people?
No, I mean, like,
in your family.
Family is important because, first of all, there's no work-life balance in entrepreneurship. You will lose on one side or the other. There's no silver bullet for that. And I've heard all these, theories about how you do it. Something's going to give.
Sure.
And I think in my case, the kids got affected. First, and what happens is the first couple of years when you're starting up, when you're on your own, and you don't have a staff of 5 or 6 people working for you. Your time is gone. You're stressing out about things. You're worrying about making payroll the next month. And, I felt like I lost some of that time with my children. And the way I rationalized it in my head, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, by the way, but I was like under so much stress to get my employees in place and get the cash flow stable, so that I thought once I make it, I can then take back some time and spend. And that's what I'm doing now. I spend a lot more quality time with the kids than I was able to before.
Okay. If your mother was to be able to look at what you've achieved today, what do you think what would she say to you? What would she think of your success today, your family, and everything that you've achieved?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that she would be proud, of what I've gone through, with all of the challenges that have come through it. She was a really outgoing, extroverted, fun-loving person, and I feel like I've tried to keep that personality alive in our brand, to keep it real and keep it fun. I hope she's proud, of what's happened. That would be, as an Indian kid going through the circumstances that you have, impressing your parents is always this thing, and your friend circle and your peers and all that is always a great thing.
Sure. Were there non-believers? I mean, for the lack of better words, haters. People that maybe, told you, hey man, that's a crazy idea. Why would you do that?
I could line them up. There's like a million of them. And I think...
How did you deal with that?
So a lot of it had to do when we were starting on the buy side, because...
Can you name any of those people?
No, I'm not going to call them out right now.
Okay.
I could say Mr. X, for example, was one of the haters. But you have haters from all different sides of entrepreneurship. You got, when you're starting out, the bankers. No one's going to lend you any money. Okay. When you're starting out, the buyers, they're like, who is this brand? You're not coming here like, buyers would be used to the big brands rolling in saying, here's these 8 new SKUs. Here's our $1 million budget. And, we're going to invest all this money in taking out gondolas and shelf space and, let's go. And we'd roll in and we're like, listen, hey, we got these 2 SKUs. I got no money. My marketing is that. And the buyers at the time weren't even on social media. So I'd walk up to them and be like, hey, we're gonna invest on Facebook. And they're like, what's Facebook? Take a hike. But the few buyers that took a risk on us, it paid off.
Do you treat them differently? Do you give them, some sort of preference when it comes to treatment?
Yeah, there's a couple buyers that took risks on us early on. I remember those names, and it was tough, man, because it was just you'd meet 100 buyers and 2 of them would be like, it was just like when I was applying for a job.
Yeah.
All these things come back. And all these things back from my early childhood,
Sure.
I feel like we're being recreated at a different
Sure.
level here.
Sure.
And yeah, now when I look at where we are now we roll into offices and they're like, oh, Koita, this, that, we heard you're in Singapore. I mean, it's easy.
Sure.
So getting back to it, we had those buyers that rejected us, and there is a little bit of bittersweet.
Sure.
When you roll back in there and you're
Absolutely.
like, listen, I'm in 200 locations now in the UAE alone. It's nice. And then you've also got some haters on, people that I tried to hire, for example. I remember I was trying to hire a very senior person in FMCG, and this person wouldn't even return my phone call. They're like, who are you?
Wow.
And now they're calling me every 5 minutes,
Sure.
begging for a job opportunity. And
Sure.
I'm like, it's too late.
Sure.
So again, a lot of that, it's across the board,
One thing I want to bring up, and I really admire about you guys, you actually give away about 5% of your revenues to charity. Yeah. You're also quite involved in charity. I recently came across a video of yourself and Chris Fade driving one of your milk trucks. You guys were filling up refrigerators during Ramadan.
Yeah, we're a socially conscious brand. We give back, we save 5% of our net profits back to charity. It's actually more.
Sure.
It was more last year. And we do a lot with the Ramadan fridges. We do stuff with Disabled Children's Association. We gave back to the Palestinians and the refugee camps in Jordan. We work with Chris Fade a lot. He's actually a big support. He actually he's one of our cool celebrity guys that I've built an amazing relationship with. He's a great guy. He's got 2 daughters. And he got involved because his daughters drink our milk, and we just connected over social media, and we turned out to have a really good friendship. He's a great guy, and he's helped us promote some of the great CSR work that's happening around the region.
Which is great, because you have a few other people that have actually supported you guys. You've got a couple of really cool brand ambassadors. Who are they again?
Yeah, so what we learned early on is, we got into social media, and when the whole social media thing started 3 years ago, we were kind of the first company to get involved. One, because we were broke and had no money to do OBL and billboards. But I'm big into, I love my social media, my Instagramming and stories, so I got it. And it was a very effective way, and a lot of the big companies were ignoring it. So we started talking to a lot of the social media influencers very early on in their careers. And what we learned is that it's not about people and followers. It's about associating with brand ambassadors and partnering with brand ambassadors that actually carry the same ideals as your company. That to us meant a lot. 2 other brand ambassadors. One is Raha Muharik. She's wonderful. She's the first Saudi female to climb Mount Everest. She won Emirates Woman of the Year. She was on CNN. She's amazing, a very, very amazing personality. And we went to a lot of schools and helped her spread her inspiring story, because it has a lot. It has a lot of parallels with what our brand stands for, keeping it real and kind of being the underdog and stuff like that. We work with Nick Watson, who ex-British military guy who runs triathlons all over the place, and he has a disabled child. And to create awareness for kids with disabilities, he actually carries his disabled child, on triathlons.
Wow.
And he's done like over 20, 30 triathlons. I don't know the exact number, but we also brought him to a lot of schools because our target audience is kids. So we love bringing these inspiring stories, out there. And these brand ambassadors have been amazing supporters of what we're doing in the region.
Excellent. As we get close to the end of this episode, what are the top 3 tips that you would share with entrepreneurs, people who are looking to get out there, start their own business today? What are the top 3 tips that you'd like to share with them?
I would say try it. Entrepreneurship changes you as a person. You build up a lot of confidence. You learn about yourself. You go through struggles. So put on the blinders and jump in and try it. I think entrepreneurship can be potentially for everyone. I'm not saying it'll work, but try it once. 2, be creative. You don't forget about the norms of starting a company. This go big or go home thing. I don't buy it. And I think that you don't need a lot of money, you know. And I think there's a precedence out there where there's different types of entrepreneurs, and I'm the entrepreneur who didn't have a lot, and I got through it and I made it. There's that entrepreneur where that gets $1 million from his dad, and he goes out there and he's like, hey, it's no problem. And I think that's the wrong precedent to set. You really need to be ready for some struggle and some pain. So again, just be ready for some bruises.
Okay.
And then have a good sense of humor, because listen, the stuff that gets thrown at you every day as an entrepreneur is amazing. You know, you got to be able to laugh a lot.
Okay.
Off, you know?
All right, and a couple last questions. Friends or Seinfeld?
All right, I'd have to say Friends, because I like to watch things and be a little brain dead after a stressful day. I think Seinfeld, you got to think a little bit more about the jokes and stuff like that. So I'm definitely on the Friends.
What about sports teams?
I'm a Chicago guy, so Chicago Cubs. I definitely have an affinity with them. I was there when Jordan won all 6 championships. So the Bulls of the past. I'm a hardcore, Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls fan. So those are my 2 teams.
Favorite cuisine?
Ooh.
Is there anything you don't eat?
I eat pretty much everything.
Okay.
I eat pretty much everything, but I like some Indian snacks, some really, like pani puris is one snack that I have this affinity for. I can eat it anytime. It's certainly an acquired taste, I can tell you. Okay. And I like my cheesecake and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Would you make it back to the show if we invited you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to look forward to that. Yeah. Cool. Well, there you have it, guys. We are at the end of the episode. It was a great opportunity to sit here, listen to your story. It was quite motivational. It was very inspirational. And I'm sure our viewers and listeners have picked up quite a lot. So thanks again for making it to the show. And there you have it, guys. Until next episode, this is your host, Omar. We'll see you later.